Welcome to MystiChrono, where history's shadows reveal more than we're told. In the heart of Rome, Vatican City stands as a fortress of faith and secrecy. Beneath its domes lies a labyrinth of forbidden knowledge, sealed, guarded, and shrouded in silence. Whispers tell of documents that could upend our understanding of religion, science, and humanity itself. Today, we open the gates to explore the secret libraries of the Vatican. Deep below St. Peter's Basilica, the Vatican's secret archives stretch for over 85 kilometers, a kingdom of paper and silence. 12 centuries of papal correspondence, state papers, and letters from kings and saints are preserved here. The air is cool, the silence absolute, broken only by archivists moving like ghosts among the shelves. Access is a rare privilege, granted to a select few scholars after years of waiting and scrutiny. Once inside, every movement is monitored, every request controlled. Scholars see only a handful of documents per day, chosen from catalogues that may not reveal the archive's true extent. What is so fiercely protected? Is it fragile paper, or the fragility of belief itself? The scale and secrecy suggest that some chambers remain off-limits, their contents known only to the Vatican's highest ranks. The word secret in the Vatican secret archives may be the reason for some of the rampant speculation about what goes on in there, but it makes the archive sound much sexier than it is. The secret part of the name comes from the Latin name, the Archivium Secretum Vaticanum. The word secretum has branched in English meaning. On one hand, it can mean secret or hidden. On the other, it can mean personal or private, in the sense of private property. This is what the name of the archive actually means. The personal archives of the Pope. It is for this very reason that last year Pope Francis changed its name to the Vatican Apostolic Archive to try and distance it from its reputation. This already makes them a lot less exciting, I know, even if there are about 50 miles of shelf space in them. They are a treasure trove me as a medievalist though, if not so much for conspiracy theorists. The Vatican's medieval treasure trove. A number of ancient-looking books on a modern bookshelf at the Vatican Archives. Volumes from the Vatican Apostolic Archives. The Vatican Archives have a lot of medieval material. There's some material dating back to the 8th century, but it is very fragmented and rare. The medieval holdings mainly consist of books of letters and bureaucratic records, which start in the roughly 1205, though such items are quite limited for this century. By the start of the 14th century, though, we have loads of letters sent by the popes, petitions granted, and other such administrative records being saved. These give us some fascinating insights into a wide range of aspects of medieval life. For example, the archives hold over 100,000 letters preserved in the main register series alone, that date from the first half of the 14th century. These were produced by the main bureaucracy at the papal court and by the Pope's personal secretaries. And that 100K isn't counting anything in the auxiliary registers, which were documents produced by the papacy's specialized departments while documenting their work. These registers tell us quite a lot about life in the 14th century, both for the high European aristocrats in contact with the papacy and for lower-level petitioners. Those at lower social echelons might navigate the papal bureaucracy to have some claim validated, such as having a land claim recognized or getting their marriage to a slightly too closely related cousin legalized. High-level nobles may be discussing setting up crusades, peace negotiations with enemy states, or getting their marriage to a much too closely related cousin legalized. We can learn lots about what activity the papacy had taken an interest in, how church administration worked, and what things medieval people sought official forgiveness for. For example, through these, we know that King Philip VI of France was well on his way to launching a crusade when the outbreak of the 100 Years' War in 1337 forced him to pull all his troops back to North France. We know about sordid crises between rival monks who fought to become the next abbot of their monastery. You find reams of land disputes between minor individuals otherwise completely lost to history. We even know more about international trade and travel. The papacy issued trade and pilgrimage licenses that to visit to the Muslim world, and handed down punishments to people who did so behind the Pope's back. Opening the Pope's mail. In this trove, is a huge archive, nearly complete, of papal letters. What a pope wrote to other world leaders can be quite revealing about their hopes and ambitions. Comparing the letters of different popes can help us understand what each thought was most important at the time. The popes weren't writing about secret deals to destroy the Templars. That deal was quite public, and all 60 meters of scroll detailing it are available to scholars. They're not establishing global secret societies. The papal letters show us popes trying to maintain a semblance of European peace, when they're not the ones disrupting it, of course, and preserve papal authority in the face of changing global politics. They detail the Pope's efforts at negotiating with the Mongols and their missions to China. They even set up an archbishopric in Beijing at the end of the 13th century. The popes tried to broker peace in the 100 Years' War. They were working to control the supply of war goods to the enemies of Western Christendom. They dwell on efforts to try and reunify the Latin and Greek churches, which were separated first in 1054, and which were permanently ripped apart when the Fourth Crusade sacked Constantinople in 1204. They detail excommunications for breaking the unity of Christendom, some for some pretty grand things, such as King Philip IV of France for having Pope Boniface VIII roughed up, or a Catalan private army for conquering Christian-held territories in the East. They also detail excommunications for smaller offenses, like transporting iron or slaves to war enemies. They show in great detail how people reacted to theological arguments and heresies, both in Europe and in other Christian countries like Armenia, which was often suspected of being a bit heretical, but kept getting exonerated by the Inquisitions. All this stuff is cool, but not evidence of UFOs. Cool. But I was told there would be sexy hidden Vatican scandals and secrets. What we don't really learn much, or anything about from these archives, is hidden Christological conspiracies and suppressed scandals. That's not because these scandals were hidden, but because papal scandals were well documented both inside and outside the papacy. Much of the medieval material in these archives comes from a period called the Avignon Papacy. When most people think of the Pope, they think of Rome. But for nearly 70 years in the Middle Ages, the papacy was evicted. The Vatican Secret Archives were officially established in the early 17th century by Pope Paul V, who consolidated scattered records into a single, central repository. Before this, documents were lost to fire, war, and neglect. The archives became the institutional memory of the papacy, a tool of power and legacy. Yet rumors persist of even older, hidden collections, an archive within the archive, holding secrets too dangerous for public eyes. Was the creation of the secret archives an act of preservation, or a veil drawn over deeper mysteries? Archivum Secretum. Vaticanum means private archive, but secrecy is its true legacy. Entry is reserved for postgraduate scholars with rigorous credentials and recommendations. Inside, scholars are watched, their access tightly rationed. No browsing, only specific approved requests from cryptic centuries-old catalogs. A daily limit slows research to a crawl, and a forbidden index, the indice, remains hidden from all but the highest officials. The system controls not just preservation, but the narrative itself. What is so dangerous that it must be locked away? Is it history, or the Church's own story, that is being protected? The archive's security seems designed to guard not just paper, but power. Where secrecy reigns, speculation thrives. Some believe the archives hide lost gospels, texts that could radically alter Christianity's story. Others whisper of evidence of extraterrestrial contact, ancient prophecies, or blueprints for forgotten technologies. Are there prophecies that give the Vatican an edge, or secrets that could shake the world? These theories, wild or plausible, reflect our longing to uncover the truths locked away in Rome. The Vatican's silence only deepens the mystery. Beyond grand conspiracies, the archives reveal intimate human stories. Letters between Michelangelo and the popes show a world of artistic struggle, financial disputes, and political tension behind the Sistine Chapel's beauty. Michelangelo's frustration over delayed payments and censorship is palpable. sketches and notes reveal the compromises forced by Vatican officials. These documents remind us that even masterpieces are forged in conflict, ambition, and debate. The archives let us glimpse the flawed humanity behind the art. The trial of Galileo, preserved in the Vatican archives, marks a turning point in science and faith. The records detail how Galileo was forced to recant his support for heliocentrism under threat of torture. His signed confession is a tragic testament to the cost of challenging dogma. For centuries, these documents were hidden, symbolizing the Church's struggle with uncomfortable truths. Only in 1992 did the Vatican formally admit its error, using the trial records to reconcile with history. The archives remind us of the dangers of silencing inquiry. The legend of the Knights Templar endures, but a forgotten document in the Vatican archives changed their story. The Chinon parchment, discovered in 2001, revealed that Pope Clement V absolved the Templars of heresy in secret. The Pope, pressured by the French king, sacrificed the order to maintain his own power. For centuries, this truth was buried, rewriting the final chapter of the Templars. The archives hold not just secrets, but the power to reshape history. Sometimes, what's hidden is more revealing than what's known. The third secret of Fatima, locked in the Vatican for decades, fueled endless speculation. When finally revealed in 2000, it described a vision of violence and martyrdom, interpreted as the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. Yet many believe the full secret remains hidden, perhaps a prophecy too devastating to share. The mystery endures, with some convinced that the Vatican guards a truth the world isn't ready to face. The archives are a vault for faith, fear, and the unknown. Some secrets, it seems, refuse to be revealed. The Vatican's archives are a monument to the power of knowledge, guarded, curated, and fiercely protected. We've glimpsed stories of science silenced, knights betrayed, and prophecies half-told. Each document is a piece of a puzzle we may never complete. Until the doors open wider, we can only imagine what truths remain hidden. You've been watching MystiChrono, where history's shadows reveal the light of truth. Like, share, and subscribe, because some secrets are meant to be uncovered.